What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of TML Weekly, presented by Bjorn and Don Cherry's Sports Grill. We're going to dissect the Leafs' first 3 games of the season. But first, let's check in with the guys. John, how's it going?
Which one?
Pretty good, brother. How's it going?
Specific, man.
I know, no kidding. I just jumped in, Johnny.
We'll go Johnny.
Yeah, you know what? All good, man. We're lots to talk about. You can call it a great start. You can call it a good start. You can call it a lucky start. But I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, the week's been good. It's nice to have real hockey back on. Excited about that. And what about you, Johnny?
You know what? I'm with you. Great to have the boys back and something to watch during the week. Also fun to have the late games. You know, during the week if you're getting ready for bed and you can put on a couple periods. Especially nice to see Edmonton struggling out of the gate. Not gonna lie, that kind of warms my heart a little. With regards to the start, it's been a start to the season. So we'll get into that, I'm sure, very quickly. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go first, brother?
Yeah, I think we should just dive right into it. Start talking about the Leafs and Habs game, the home opener. What are you guys' thoughts on the game overall?
You can start, John, and then I'll have to defend everything that they did. So you might as well get after it.
Okay, so here's my take on the open game of the season. Really, a little bit of kind of what you kind of expected, in that the offense showed up eventually and was ready to play. The defense was kind of, I know it's not a popular take, but frankly, where I expected the defense to be for the bulk of the year. I was extremely disappointed at the start of the game. Yet again, we're starting out the season the same way we ended the season. Guys not ready to play right off the hop. The puck drops, and we're taking our time to get into the game and, la-di-da, so to speak. I didn't love the way we came out, obviously. I think really, if we're going to be honest with each other, there's no reason we should have won that game. Matthews decided he was going to be the best player in the world and won us that game. And because it's a new season and I'm in a wonderful mood, I will give the coach some credit. I think it was an absolutely great call. Pull goalie. I think it was five and change to go. What difference does it make you 3 if you lose by 2? Give yourself a chance, put the big boys out. And then after he got the first one, I almost fell off my chair when he accurately called the timeout at the right time. Gave the boys time to get back, regroup, and be ready to go again. I liked that part of the game. I like the fight. I like the comeback. But to me, after a year of things are change, it looked very similar to what we've seen all the way along. That's my 2 cents on game 1. Johnny,
I disagree. I'm going to disagree with you here, and I'm going to tell you why. So my daughter Madison just commented on our stream here. Hi, Maddie. She was here. So her and her boyfriend Reese came in for reading week, and they were here for the game. And I said flat out, I said they're going to lose. I said, because it's Montreal, it's the opener. This is what happens, right? You can go back and it's been either Montreal, Ottawa, or usually Montreal or Ottawa on opening night. And I didn't pull the stats, but they lose that game 8 times out of 10, right? A lot of pressure on them, a lot of pressure on everybody. It's especially being in Toronto. I predicted before the game that they're probably going to find a way to lose this game because that's what they do on opening night. And then guys like my friend there, John, go off the deep end everybody's worked up, right? But you're right. They found a way. Credit Patrick Waugh for that. Not that specific, but Patrick Waugh changed the way coaches think, and he did that back when he coached in Colorado, and I think everybody went nuts, and they were like, "What? He pulled the goalie with 4.5 or something like that, and it worked." You're right. You know what? Give your guys a chance. There's the odd time you're going to get that empty netter that goes in, and it is what it is. But he made the right call. He got the timeout was impeccable. You're right. Matthews stepped up. I thought he was going to win it in overtime. I was like, he wins this. Actually, I predicted when he got his second one, I said to my daughter and Reese, I said, he's going to score and tie it up, and he's going to score in overtime and get 4 again. And he missed the 5-hole, and then he missed the top right, on 2 of his shifts in overtime, or that could have happened. I was okay with you get those 2 points. I think it was a real fun hockey game for the average fan. The guy that's not
100%.
Diving in, that was good. That was fun, right? You got Chekai and Reeves. I thought it was a little bit of a chicken shit move running them through the net like that. I think that was his way of going, okay, do I really want this on opening night? If I knock
jumped him from behind and then pushed him into the net.
Yeah. So, I think I don't think they play again until March, but I think it might not end very well for that young man because, Revo's a scary guy. I think, his value to the group, he's a fourth liner. He's a 4 or 5 minute guy that in my opinion, I think, I look at a guy like Kyle Clifford. I think Kyle Clifford is a better hockey player than Ryan Reeves. I really do. Kyle Clifford can skate. Kyle Clifford gets heavy on the forecheck, and he goes in, and he doesn't turn the puck over. I'm a little nervous when Reeve is out there, although I really, really like and I coached against this kid. He was a good player when he who's the new guy on the fourth line played in Calgary at one point.
Noah Gregor?
Yeah, Gregor. So when Gregor's a 98, and I coached in Calgary, I coached the 98 spring team, and I coached the Southern Alberta Selects. Noah played for the Northern Alberta Selects, and they had Cale Clegg was another defenseman that was with that group. But Noah Gregor was a good hockey player. I had a pretty good one on that team too. I had Cale McCarr, and I had Cale McCarr, and I had somebody else. Jake Bean, and I had plays in LA now, Jared Anderson Dolan. So all those kids were, there was a cream of the crop. Dylan Dubé was around then too. Didn't play for me, but he played for another Calgary team. Okay. But anyway, Gregor, I've loved. I think he brings a real good level of intensity to the lineup. Klingberg, we know we talked about that last week. We know what we're getting with him. We're getting a defensive liability, but he's going to put up some points. I heard they're in on the guy that got waived. A guy got waived today, didn't he? A 6'7" defenseman in Edmonton, Desharnais.
Oh yeah, I'm not the biggest fan.
The guy that I was under the impression, and you tell me if this is wrong. I had heard that prior to making the deal with Vancouver for Lafferty.
Yeah, you're right.
The Leafs approached Edmonton about him. Yeah. And Edmonton said, "No, we're not moving him." So right. It makes you wonder what's happened there.
Yeah. I don't think here's what happened. I think that was before the season started. Okay. And there wasn't very much pressure on Kenny Holland 4 days ago that there is today. And I think what happened was he doesn't want to deal with Toronto. Does he want this kid to come into Toronto and be the 7-8 guy and get some minutes and win a cup and be play in a big market and succeed? No, because it looks bad on him. It's no different when you play a guy that you didn't draft over the guy that you drafted. and show up your scouts, right? So he
Yeah,
declined
the
at that
flip
point.
side is the flip
What?
side is Sam Lafferty is an NHL level player, a
Yep.
decent NHL level player, right?
Yep.
And you know what? I think he was 1.25, maybe 1.25.
It was
one
two.
and change.
It was 185 or something, I think. Yeah.
118.
Was Lafferty that high?
I thought he was 1.8.
1.5?
I think it's 115.
No, I don't think he was that high, Johnny.
Oh, well, maybe not.
No.
Yeah. So
somebody look it up while we're talking
that
here,
was where
but-
my head went when I heard that. I thought maybe it was cost prohibitive on the cap for them for Lafferty, and that's why maybe they were looking for a little something else if they were going to take the contract back. But
Well, what it is Lafferty's not waiver exempt, right? So
Correct.
so Lafferty goes. If you're not playing him and you want to send Lafferty down to the Marlies, he goes through waivers. So they lose him immediately. They got an asset back. They got an asset back. He obviously isn't in their plans. They have a lot of, bottom six guys that are ready, in my opinion. They've got some, Nick Robertson's ready, right? He's an NHL hockey player. He's putting up numbers in the American Hockey League, 5 points in 2 games. He's an NHL player if he can stay healthy. I don't know if he's an NHL player here, but he's an NHL player. I think that you're going to see him moved for an asset. But yeah, I like
he's
Lafferty.
got an NHL shot, John.
Oh, he's an NHL player.
Sorry, I was just going to say Robertson.
Player.
Listen, I don't disagree with you that Nick Robertson is an NHL hockey. I don't disagree with you at all. Yeah. But what I will say is, I think Nick Robertson has a very good NHL shot. Not an elite shot. He's not his brother, but he's got a very, very good NHL shot. And you're exactly right. At his size, can he take the grind? That's the issue, right? Where I think all of us collectively are fans of Nick Robertson. We all want Nick Robertson to succeed. If Nick Robertson is playing well, it's doing well for us. We're in a good spot.
I'm not a fan.
Whether it's here, you're not.
I'm not a fan.
Okay,
the kid's been here long enough.
Fan.
You know what? I just said he's an NHL hockey player. I have no problem with the player. The kid's been around this team long enough that he should have figured out a way to make this team this year. He comes into camp and he gets beat out by Minton, right?
19-year-old kid.
By a 19-year-old that could still go back to junior, right? That's problematic.
It's not a great look. I agree.
So you need to, when you're in that position as a hockey player, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what do I got to do? Do I got to go into camp and be an absolute maniac and run everybody? Because you know what? I look at the top 6 in the Toronto Maple Leaf organization, and it's arguably the best in the league, best in the world, right? That top 6 that they can mix and match. They've got guys in their 7, 8, 9 hole that are top 6 on 15 hockey teams in the National Hockey League, right? So this kid needs to be self-aware and say, okay, now what am I? Okay, I haven't shown so guess what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be a 4th liner, and I'm going to be the best goddamn 4th liner. I'm going to chip in points. I'm going to lay the body, and I'm going to show them that I can stay healthy. And then he makes this team, right? If he goes into camp with that mindset,
that's not his game, John.
Yeah, but then guess what? Then you just wrote your ticket away. People change their game all the time, John. If you want to play for this organization, you're not going to be in the top 6.
Not at
probably,
but not at 5'10", John. Not at that size.
Yeah,
he
why
can't
not?
be that guy.
Why not? It's a different game. Maybe not 30 years ago, John, but now there's 5'10" guys that are,
John, you can't.
Paul Byron. Paul Byron is the perfect example. He was in the bottom 6, and he's tiny, right? But he played big, and he went out and he did what he had to do to stay in the league and to play at for the Montreal Canadiens. And he ended up working his way into that top 6, and at times on the top line. Robertson had that opportunity in this training camp, and he squandered it.
He had the opportunity, but that's not Nick Robertson's skill set. If Nick Robertson is not playing a finesse game, I don't know that there's a spot for Nick Robertson on an NHL team. I'm just being honest. I
Yeah,
don't
there's
see
no
Nick
thought for him on the Toronto Maple
Robertson
Leafs.
as an energy guy. Yeah, and listen, I'm not opposed. Don't be very clear. I'm not opposed to moving Nick Robertson. I'm not.
I think you
But
have
at
to.
the same point in time, you know what? With the way that you've seen Domi start,
Yeah.
you know what? You started Domi on the second line, and that lasted 5 periods before you went, "Ow, I don't know if he's who we thought we were getting here." And so, again, we know nobody is your fan of young Matthew Nyes than I am. I think Matthew Nyes should be playing on the top line, and Bertuzzi should be on the second line. Myself, that's my opinion. But if you're going to take somebody that is of the Max Domi skill set, and you're going to say that he's supposed to be that energy guy, and he's supposed to be the guy. What if Max Domi goes down? Who do we have? I mean, that's Nick Robertson City, right?
Oh, I don't know. See, I
Like,
got Max Domi. I look at Max different than you do. I mean, Max came in as a skilled guy. Max put up
drafted as a skilled guy.
40, 50 points, drafted, played all the way up as a skilled guy. But then he comes into the NHL and he punches out Kessler and he punches out, he goes after Ekblad, and he's got a little bit of his dad in him. He's got a little bit of crazy in him. And I think Max Domi needs to play different. I don't think Max Domi is going to help the Toronto Maple Leafs by being a finesse guy. I think with the name on the back, if like the other night when you knew Pears wasn't going to fight Revo, you knew that they're yapping and Pears is going and that's what he does, right? That's when Max Domi, who's up to Pears' chin, needs to step on the ice the next time Pears is out there and fucking drop his gloves and say, let's go. And if Pears doesn't want to go, right? Perfect. Because now we got him. Now you're in his head, right? And that's where Max,
I agree.
That's Max's role on this team. Max or Bertuzzi. Those two guys have to be.
John, it didn't happen.
Right. Why? It needs to happen. That's how Max Domi stays on this team in a prominent role. I don't think he's a good enough player to be a skilled guy at on this with this group. But can he help? He chips in 10 or 15 goals and has 100 minutes and plays heavier than he is. That's where his value is going to be, right?
And so I will say to you what I said when I started this. Okay, I said we want it to be different, but it looks an awful lot like the same. We all agree that's what Max Domi needs to do.
Yeah.
When push came to shove, didn't happen. And all I'm saying is,
and you know what? It should have. I think the message that was sent. Coaches can't tell people to fight anymore. When I played hockey, I had coaches come to me and say,
"Shouldn't have to though, John." Max Domi's a 9-year. He's a 9-year veteran now. You shouldn't need to tell Max Domi that he needs to go. You knew he needed to go. I knew he needed to go. He knew he needed to go. We all knew what needed to happen.
Just Paris. He needs to do something to get the crowd going. He had 3 home games with the name Domi on the back.
With the name Domi on the back of sweater. 100%, John.
Right?
100%. I agree.
He needed to do something. I don't know whether it was score a goal and ride his stick, run the goalie over, drop the mitts and fight somebody. I don't know. What do you think, Nolan? What do you like? Where are you on this?
Yeah, Domi's definitely been disappointing to start the season. I had really high hopes for him, and he obviously got demoted to third line. But yeah, I think last year in Chicago as a first line center, obviously had all the opportunity to be the skill guy that he was drafted to be. But now that he's second power play, second, third line, with Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Nylander, he's not going to be the skill guy. He needs to adapt to being like a power forward kind of type player, like he was when he got traded to Carolina and Dallas at the deadline the past 2 years.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think Keefe did the right thing by demoting him. But if I was on the second line, top six, Toronto Maple Leafs with the team they have, and the coach came in and says you're playing in the third line tomorrow, I'm going to say okay. And I've told a lot of players this over my coaching career, a lot of them. I got you with the top guys. I'm going to move you down to the fourth line here, and you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as a demotion, or you can look at it as an opportunity, and be the best fourth liner that you can be the best energy guy and heavy guy, and if you're going to answer the bell, you answer the bell and look after your teammates. And he's a 9-year vet. He should have known that going in. And I like, what's the stat line? How many hits did Max Domi have in 3 games? 1, 2, right?
Yeah.
Not many.
I'm gonna check.
No, nothing substantial. Nothing that would have reminded anybody in Toronto in the building.
And Johnny, he was a -3.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is what it is. It's like we said, it's early. We can move on. What was the second one? Minnesota?
Yeah. Minnesota 7-4 win over the Wild.
What are your thoughts on that, Nolan? What did you think of the game?
I didn't get to watch too much of it. I was out that night. I was at the Ice Dogs game.
Yeah, I watched it. I thought again, just
what do you think, Johnny?
What's that? Yeah, I mean, I saw Matthews was again all world. I thought I saw a lot of good things. There's defensive lapses, goaltending. Those things are early in the season. They're going to happen. Nobody's coming out of the gate and just a well-oiled machine. I was happy that they stepped on the Minnesota team's throat when they needed to. Revo was again prominent in that game. That hit turned the game around. Period. And then he's got to fight his buddy, which was fine and good on. The Foligno boys, I'll tell you, they're cut from the same cloth as their old man, because Nick would have fought him last night too. Nick was the one that pushed him into Perry when he was punching him in the head there. So yeah, God bless Marcus Foligno, because he gave us a lot of stuff over the years, and certainly in that game he answered the bell, did what he had to do, but the game was over after that, right? All Revo did was back up the quote he said the day before to a reporter that sometimes when you're buddies with the guys, you kind of want to give it to them a little bit more, right? And then he goes out and does it. Then Matthews after the game talking about the impact that he has and this and that. Again, 3-4 minutes, get him out there in the right situations, and I'm okay.
I think he played 9 minutes that game.
Yeah, he I don't think he's a 9-minute player.
But he's a 9-minute player in Minnesota in his first game.
Right.
Back against his old team.
It out right now.
And again, but John, again, I'm going to say positive about the coach. 2 things in a row.
Yeah.
The coach gave him opportunity to go back against his boys and make his statement. I respect that about the coach. That's a coach recognizing what Reeves is bringing into the locker room. And I guarantee you, John, you've coached enough guys and been in enough locker rooms to know, with somebody like Reeves, who's as magnetic a personality as he's already controlling. He's been there he's already the guy in the room.
Yep.
Those boys wanted nothing more than to lay a beat down on Minnesota for Reeves.
Sure.
I mean, for Klimberg to a certain extent, but more so for Reeves. And when Reeves went out and Reeves threw the hit, it was big. And again, so everybody who says I never say anything nice about the coach, that's 2 positive things in the first 2 games of the season.
Look at you. No, and you know what? Again, I'm a big believer in about a 10-game sample size, right? we don't know what this team is yet. I think, maybe not next week, but the week after on this show, I think we'll have a real good idea, and we'll know, what they need, what they lack. I think there's moves coming. I really do. I'm not a capologist by any stretch, but I think that they're I think they want to move. I haven't really liked. I'm bad with names. Defenseman that used to play for Calgary.
Brody.
Yeah, I think he's out. He's been awful. Brody's been terrible. He used to be he used to have a much better stick. He would break up a lot more plays. He's getting flat-footed. He's getting beat. He physically, he's not a presence. Never really was a physical presence, but he was a smart enough and a good enough skater to get in the right lanes. I really was disappointed with his puck management. He used to always have a real good first pass. I saw some issues there. I think he's digressed. I don't think that they're going to get a big asset for him. I think if you can get rid of his cap hit and not have to give up an asset, I think you do it, right? And you look at somebody else.
Yeah, so I think if we're going to be honest about TJ Brody, if you're moving TJ Brody, moving the contract, not getting anything back, you're moving the contract, right?
Yeah.
He's a $5 million hit on the cap. Is he still a top 4 defenseman in the league? Maybe.
No.
I mean, maybe on a different team in a different system. Maybe. No. But listen, here's the uncomfortable truth that we have to all acknowledge with our defensemen right now. Mark Giordano's 40 years old, and this head coach is still playing him 17, 18 minutes a night. Okay,
probably your best
guy. 18 minutes.
It's probably your best guy.
But John, but listen, you saw what happened last year when Mark Giordano 18 minutes a night as a 39-year-old for 80 games. The playoffs rolled around, the intensity picked up, and there was nothing there. Nothing. So we have to decide, what do we want Mark Giordano to be? Is Mark Giordano going to be an 18-minute-a-night defenseman that allows us to get to the playoffs and then sits on the bench and then comes off like Zach Bogosian does? If that's what we're doing with him, I'm okay with that. Okay, if that's what we're doing.
It might very well be, but at this point, you need to play Mark Giordano 18 or you know who has and he didn't impress me in the playoffs, and he didn't I'm not liking him.
You're going to say Jake McCabe, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, he's all over the place. As a coach watching that guy play,
I got to agree.
His position,
I got to agree, John.
He's out of position. I look at a defenseman, so I've been around the game long enough. I look at a defenseman, and what I do is I look at if you want to know where a defenseman is when he doesn't have the puck and he's supposed to be in positionally in his D zone. Look at his feet. If his toes are facing where the puck is, he's in a good spot. Fucking McCabe's toes are one's going one way and one's going the other. He's lines the guys up for hits that you or I could at this point, complete the hit, and then he misses them, and then he's out of position, and his puck management's terrible. I could have scored shooting right, and I shoot left. The puck on the tee somebody gave him last night. No, I think it was last night.
Second goal. Now, I'll say, but I will say this though, in being fair and showing some deference to McCabe, with Klingberg has hung him out dry on a few plays this season.
Yeah,
Klingberg has been so out of position that it's not even fair that as his partner, he's pulled out of position by necessity to try to cover off what Klingberg is doing. And so don't get me wrong. I am not telling you that I am in love with Jake McCabe and the way he started the season. I'm not. I've got concerns. However, I think you could put Nicholas Lindberg Nicholas Lindstrom with him right now, and you would have problems with Nick. Klingberg, to me, is the bigger problem, only because for me, from what – listen, I watched him last year in the playoffs pretty intently. In the summertime, I got on a lot of Minnesota boards, and I was talking to a bunch of people out that way on what they liked and their opinion. And what it really comes down to, John, is he's a power play specialist who needs to play on the power play, and then is your sixth defenseman and needs to be on the ice for as minimal amount of time as you can possibly do. And it's got to be protected minutes. It has to be protected minutes because he is not.
Yeah, but I think, you know what? I think Jake McCabe came here and Kyle Dubas sold Jake McCabe as that insulator for a guy like Klingberg. And we all bought it. He was a defensive specialist, top 10 defensive defenseman in the NHL. He's nowhere near that. And he wasn't in the playoffs.
No, and listen, I advocated hard for Jake McCabe.
Yeah,
I liked
the move too. I
thought the acquisition was great.
Yeah.
You know what? I would like to see it. I mean, granted, I'd like to see a lot of things, but I'd like to see Jake McCabe with somebody.
It's got to be Riley.
It's
got to be Riley.
Does it have to be Riley, or could it be Liljegren? Could it be the time that we say to Liljegren, now you're now a top 4 defenseman in the NHL. Take it and go.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't just know what? I wouldn't mind seeing a Liljegren Klingberg Swedish pairing and see and you get in Liljegren's head and say, hey, you know what? You skate well. You know what I mean? Like, you got to mix it around. You got to try some things right now, and then if there's that definite hole that you need to bring in this right shot, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Left shot, blah blah blah. Then but throw it in the blender. It's early. I don't have an issue, trying things out for a period and seeing what happens. But you can't have. I mean, McCabe's not good enough.
Okay. What do you guys? Sorry, what do you guys think about these D pairs that just made up right now? So you'd have 3 left-handed shot defensemen on the left side, 3 rights on the right, and Gio would be the 7th defenseman in the situation. But in this situation, Timmins is back, and there's no salary cap. But
there's no salary cap. Okay.
Well, we'll let Pridham deal with it, but. How about Riley Liljegren, top pair? Brody Timmins, second pair. Then third pair of McCabe, Klingberg. Shelter McCabe and Klingberg, a third pair. See if they can work together in a lesser role. And then
I think a fourth line scores on them right now, the way that they're playing on the back end.
And listen, absolutely, I agree with you. But here's the number one reason that will never happen. The number one reason it will never happen is Sheldon Keefe will never, and I mean ever, play Connor Timmins in a top 4 role. It will not happen. Won't.
Oh, I disagree with you there. If it wasn't a flash in the pan what he was doing in camp, he's going to earn those minutes.
Okay, so
I think when he comes back, he's definitely going to get a shot. Based on what he did in preseason, I think he's definitely going to earn a chance.
Nolan, I got to go back to my good buddy John one. I'm going to go back to last year, okay, when Sheldon's adopted son Justin Hall was struggling, okay, and he got moved down in the lineup and got sat, okay. Sheldon Keefe said in the press, "Do not give me a reason to take you out of the lineup." That's what he said. Connor Timmins came in and had 5 points in 2 games. And you want to know what happened? Hall got put back in the lineup. Timmins sat on the bench for the next 12 games and didn't get back in. So, with
Hall's gone.
respect, I disagree. But you're missing the point. My point is about the coach and the player. The coach has said he does not believe in the player. We had last year, you could have put Gustafson in, you could have put Timmins in, you could have put whoever you wanted in, you could have put the Pope in. He wouldn't do it. He does not believe in Connor Timmins. Even if you listen to if you listen to the coach, when he went on that run at the beginning of the season, it was a tepid pat on the back. Yeah, you know what? We never had really concerns about Connor's ability to chip in offensively. It was really about his growth in his defensive game, and that's really where we're trying to get him to. Even when he was contributing and doing what was asked, it still wasn't enough to get there. And that's why I legitimately, in my heart of hearts, while I agree, and I would love Connor Timmins fan, I like the guy. I think he's earned a look. He won't get it under this coach.
Yeah, so I'm gonna use a minor hockey analogy, and I use this all the time. And we just went through. I know in Ontario you do a lot of the tryouts in the spring. We do it here in the fall. So we've been at the rink every day and trying out for this team, and a lot of parents because I'm in development, of course, and they're asking me, my kid got cut. What do I tell them? Blah blah blah. The coach is screwed, or they don't know. And it's very simple. And this is a perfect example of that. When you coach, whether it's at the U9 novice AAA level or the National Hockey League, it's a business of winning. Okay, you have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to adapt. I think there's a new manager here. I think that might have something to do with it. Timmins was a Sault Ste. Marie guy, if you remember, right? Timmins was a Sault Ste. Marie guy, and he was a Dubas guy. There was some clear, it's come out that those two weren't as tight and friendly as we all thought, meaning Keefe and Dubas. So was that an FU to him back last year? I don't know. All I'm saying is it's a business of winning. If Timmins comes back healthy and contributes the way he did in training camp, he will be in the top four under this coach. There's no way if he has that resource available to him, there's no way he's going. It'll cost him his job at this point.
So to be clear, I just want to be clear here.
Yeah.
You think, based on what you saw last year, that the coach, who everybody said, remember when we were making excuses, everybody said he's just doing Dubas's bidding, right? Dubas was the guy that was running the show. Now he was giving the FU to Dubas by not playing Timmins?
Quite possibly. I don't know. I'm not in that room. But what I'm telling you,
I don't know, man. That sounds like I don't know.
Well, you got three players. You got Shanny. So who ends up leaving? We know, right? Dubas.
Yeah.
So there. And again, I don't know, but what I do know,
I don't know. Neither do I. I don't know.
But what I do know is that front office was broken, and I also know that as a head coach in the National Hockey League, you're putting your lineup in. Okay. And you're right. They had a lot of resources, and he believed in Hall. He believed in guys. Hall's gone. Nolan, good point. Hall's not here. McCabe is struggling. Klingberg's struggling. Brody's, in my opinion, done. And like you said, you gotta manage Gio's minutes if you want him in the playoffs. And if you don't want him in the playoffs and you don't care, right? And your plan is to make a big move at the deadline and bring in two studs, then play the shit out of them.
Then I'm okay with it.
But at the end of the day,
100%.
Connor Timmins will be in the top four when he's healthy. You don't even have the depth on the back end that you had even close last year. You just don't. And that's including Hall. And I you know what? Hall has his issues, but everybody has their issues. Find me a
Okay,
defenseman that you can't find a bad play on in a hockey game, right? You know, there's not too many. There's not too many Nicholas Lidstroms around that just literally never do anything wrong, right? The problem is in this market.
I'm not talking about. Listen, I think, again, my personal opinion, and now I've said two nice things about the coach. Now I'm going back on track. I'm going back on brand here. Do you not find it shocking? And I mean this legitimately shocking, because I thought this really adds credence to what I've been saying for 4 years, that this head coach believed Justin Hall was not only a top 4 defenseman, but an elite penalty killer, but couldn't crack a rebuilding Detroit lineup.
Oh, that's a better team than you think. That's a better team than you think. I wouldn't call that a rebuilding team anymore. I think they're on the playoff.
You wouldn't call Detroit a rebuilding team.
Wow. Their coach can say what he wants. I'm telling you right now, I look at that roster and then the moves that he's made, that Stevie Y's made, and the young, Sider and some of these young guys that are there on the back end. I'm telling you, that team's fighting for a wild card spot in the East. That's a better team than Buffalo. That's a better team than Montreal. That's a better team than Ottawa. In my
don't misunderstand I'm saying we're supposed to be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, right?
Yeah.
That's the bill of goods we're selling. And I'm telling you, this is our number 1 penalty killer, guy who played top 4 minutes. I don't know what you want me to say there. That's coach.
Well, I mean,
that coach insisted on having him in the lineup.
Yeah, but
over Timmins, who now you agree is going to be a top 4 guy.
A team is a sum of all pieces. Forget about top 4, top 6, top 9, top 3. Think about the team, and Hull was part of it. Management and the coach believed that he was part of it. Again, like I said to you a million times last year, that team last year, the team the year before, and the team the year before that could have won the Stanley Cup. They were good enough to win the Stanley Cup. Justin Hall didn't lose them the Stanley Cup. Sheldon Keefe didn't lose them the Stanley Cup. They, I could break down every game, and there's 1,000 reasons, but it's not just one game either. They didn't win 4 games when they needed to. And had they, go back to the Montreal series when the captain gets hurt, they could win that whole year, right? This team is good enough.
Captain got hurt in game 2, John,
or not, they're good enough, right? The team with the leaky defense that we saw in 3 games tonight are good enough to win the Stanley Cup, right? Because all those guys are NHL players, and yeah, they're going to. What? Go ahead.
So hold on. So let's keep going here though, because I think you bring up a good point. In that, when we're talking about teams being good enough to win the Stanley Cup, I think one thing that we haven't talked about yet, that I think has been pretty critical, is the goaltending. Nolan, what do you think? What have you liked from our? Let's start on a positive. I'm in a positive kind of mood. Let's start positively. What have you liked from our goaltending group that you've seen so far?
Not too much. I'm not sure. I guess Samsonov went 3 for 3 in the shootout against the Habs. I guess that's about it. It's been pretty shaky start of the year. Not too many bright spots yet. Guess we'll see who takes over, Samsonov or Wall. But
who do you?
Yeah, Samsonov's not looking too great. I think Wall. I could see Wall taking over the starting job by the end of the season, taking over it from Samsonov. But as of right now, neither of them have really stepped up to the plate.
And they're 2-1, right? Neither one of them's played a good game. They're 2-1. I think you got 1A and 1B. I agree with what you said last week, John. Wall, I think he's the guy. He's quieter. He's positionally more sound. A little younger. They're both the same age, aren't they? 25, 26?
Samsonov is a bit older, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, I agree, but you know what?
I think he's a couple
I'm not
years
worried
older.
about the
Yeah.
goaltending. I think you got two goaltenders that are starting goaltenders in the National Hockey League. I don't think goaltending should be a big factor in this season, like it hasn't really been a big factor in the last 3 or 4 years. Right? They're gonna get 110
Okay,
points.
so
They're gonna win, 68% of the time that they play, no matter who's in the net. It's when the playoffs come around that you need to be able to identify that number one.
did it concern you at all? Minnesota game specifically.
Yeah.
We go up 4-1, I believe.
Yeah.
We get that fourth goal quick.
Bang,
They're
bang.
announcing the goal, and we've got the guy coming down the wing from the outside of the face-off circle. He's on his knee over his shoulder. To me, that can't go in. Like, you can't allow them back in that game. You've got your foot on the throat of that team. You're about to put them away. You're going into the end of the period. You let the softie go in, and next thing you know, it's 4-3. And now we got a hockey game.
Yeah.
And to me, I looked at that and I thought, same old, same old. I've seen this from Samsonov 100 times, where I need you to not make the big save a la Jack Campbell, because that was the opposite of Campbell, right? Campbell would make 73 great saves, and then the floater would go and be like, what are we doing? Samsonov,
Yeah.
I just need you to make the save at the right time.
I'm not concerned yet. I'm not concerned
Not
yet.
concerned yet. Okay.
They won the game. That's how you get rid of that kind of stuff, right? If that goal goes in, and I agree, I'm not disagreeing with you. It was a bad goal, and it's a bad.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand your point.
That goal needs to, he needs to have that, and he'd be the first guy to tell you that. Okay, where it gets into your head a little bit, if they lost in Montreal, right? They didn't come back in Montreal. Then they go up 3-2 on Minnesota, and they let that one in. And then they come back and end up losing that game. Now they're 0-2, right? And then they drop an egg against Chicago like they did, and they're 0-3.
Yeah, now the world's ending.
Now you're the Edmonton Oilers, right? Now it's bad, right? But it's not. They were 2-0. They came out of it 2-0. He was able to probably go in and tap Matthews on the ass in the locker room and say, thanks, man. Appreciate it. You picked me up. And that's, I keep going back on it.
You almost love a little bit of that. I agree.
A lot of times, and this is, Nolan, you'll see as we get through these episodes, I think about the big picture, and sometimes John doesn't. John will focus on something that, and it's like, hey, let it go, right? We're gonna be okay. We won the game, right? We're gonna make mistakes, and then we move on, and so that brings me to the Chicago game. Okay. So I don't know. If you had told me that they would have lost to Chicago the way they did, and Bedard really wasn't a factor, but Bedard was good. He had the puck. He made some great plays.
He was fine. Bedard was fine.
Yeah, but you know what? Let's talk about Bedard for a bit, because I'm a big body language guy. So I was telling somebody a story here recently when I scout. If I'm going to look at it, whether it's a peewee game or a pro game or whatever, I always sit in if I want to watch a team and they're on this side of the ice, some rinks have benches on both sides. I sit somewhere where I can watch the bench, and I watch not only body language on the ice, right? I'm watching that, of course, right? Somebody, rings one off the crossbar and they slap their stick, or they, come over and break their stick, that kind of stuff. That to me is mental weakness. I try to teach my son, who's playing, competitive level now, that all you're doing is you're showing the team that you're not mentally strong, right? You something didn't go your way and you're going to throw your head back and, your arms are going to go up or whatever. No, bury your head and go and get it right the next time. You've been there for. Yeah. So I watched that. I love the Bedard kid, and we got to meet him at the World Juniors here, and Jack has a signed jersey and blah 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 blah. But I pointed it out to my son last night. So watch his body language. This is not good, Jack. Right? And I'm watching his dad in the stands. Like he looked like he was going to have a heart attack. The poor guy. Every play.
Yeah, they were living and dying on every play, weren't they? Yeah.
But they didn't need to lose that game last night. But I think it's not a bad thing. I think it gives Keefe, so let's say they squeak it out last night and they tie it up and get one in overtime. And now you're 3-0, right? 2 overtime wins against 2 non-playoff teams and the Minnesota game. And now the guys are going into practice today and they're whistling and, I think losing that game is going to be a good thing moving forward because Keefe can go into practice today and go absolutely bananas and say, you know what, and move stuff around and change D pairings and, maybe move Nyes up a rung. I don't know. But it gives them the opportunity to do that because, that's it. You could go in and say, you're 2-1, great job. Or you can go in and say, yeah, beat a non-playoff team in overtime. You had to come back 2 goals down. Then, almost blew a lead against Minnesota, who's a bubble playoff team now. They're not that good. And then you lost to a, potential 32nd overall team in the NHL. So, hey, boys, you know what? Austin, great 6 goals. But what did you do? You know what I mean? He can do all kinds of things with it. And I think I'd like to think, who do they have? They're on the road in the Florida. Aren't they Florida and Tampa this week?
Yep.
Yeah.
Florida,
it's the longest road, I think.
Yeah. So,
6 game or 7 game
I don't see Florida or Tampa being as good as they were last year. This division is Toronto's to really steamroll. Boston's obviously you can't give up Bergeron and come back the same way. They've got some good players, but I think Toronto can stranglehold this. But sometimes be careful what you wish for too, because that Metro division is pretty good. And do you want New Jersey in the first round? Do you want Pittsburgh in the first round? There's some good teams over there.
Well, listen, John, I wish I had the same feeling about this division as the Leafs to steamroll. I took a lot of heat last week for a couple of the comments I made about our pick. I said maybe 95 points. I think I'm just trying to be honest. I don't see this team, and nobody loves this team more than I do, but defensively, I don't know how we can be a 110 point team still playing. I don't see it. I see us right now as a third place in the division. I think that's probably where we're going to end up. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but I hope I am. What I see so far is exactly the same thing that I have seen the last 2 years. I've seen our top guys. When our top guys are the best guys on the ice, we win hockey games.
Well, that's anybody.
And I've seen
that's the captain of the obvious.
But the difference is
everybody. Here's my.
Well, thing. I mean, captain, but okay.
There's one aspect of the game that made them mediocre in the first 3 games, and that was puck management. Okay, the only guys that handled the puck well and kept it were 88 and 34. 16 was 16 was subpar.
Been invisible. 16 been invisible.
Subpar. So there's a guy that's top 10 in the league. Okay, he wasn't handling and managing the puck very well. Max Domi got demoted for that very reason. You talk about Domi's the fourth line. The only guy that I'm not scared when he has the puck is Gregor. I've liked Minton.
Are you scared with David Camp? Are you scared with David Camp with the puck? David telling me that
Camp is valuable when he doesn't have the puck? David Camp is in the right places when he doesn't have the puck. That's his value. The only time I really want David Camp touching the puck is when he wins a face-off in his own zone. I could care less if he touches it. He's going to get in the right way. He's going to get in the right lane.
Okay, I can live with that.
You know, and that's my point here. You got 16, who arguably is one of the best puck keeper or whatever you want to call
Magicians.
it. In the world, and he's been subpar. Okay. The other kid on the line, he's done a lot of great things. I'm not disappointed in Bertuzzi. He hasn't handled the puck well. Right? If it's on Matthews' stick, something's good's going to happen. Nylander has been better than Matthews, in my opinion. He's just not going in as many. And then
I agree with you 100%.
Tavares got progressively better from game 1 to game 2 to game 3. Okay. So now if you get these guys I'm talking about having the puck, your defense and your goaltending won't matter because you have the puck 75% of the game. Right? And I said that last week. They're a puck management team. Right, and they didn't manage the puck this weekend. Period. They did the first 3 games, other than the guys I said. So if they can get, you know, and a lot of it, there's starting at home is never a good thing, right? Whenever I got a schedule and I was coaching at a high level, I always wanted to be on the road for a number of reasons.
A little bonding, get the boys away from everything.
There's a lot of distractions at home. Okay, the media, the families, the tickets, the home opener in Toronto is a big deal. So these guys are getting texts from, their third grade teacher's veterinarian sister's husband. Oh, you remember me? That kind of thing, looking for home opener tickets, right? So they're dealing with that. They're dealing with the stress of, oh my God, what if Montreal comes in here and beats us? And they're shitty this year. There's a lot going on. They're coming out of camp. Some of the young guys just made the team. So they're like, oh my God, I'm in the NHL. So there's a lot of pressure, and they had 3 games, to start the season at home. So I give them a little bit. Hey, you know what? Mitch Marner hasn't digressed. Mitch Marner isn't going to be a bad player now. We know Mitch Marner might have a wrist injury that nobody knows about. There could be something underlying with him that we know he's all world. He's going to snap out of it. It's like when Ovechkin would go 5 games without a goal. You're not like, oh, he's done. No, he's going to score 2 tonight, right? Mitch Marner is going to be back. And then if Mitch Marner starts going and the way Matthews is going and Bertuzzi's been fine. He's done everything I think that they need him to do. That line's going to be scary. Nylander, I'm not even opposed – honestly, of throwing it in like they were doing in camp, and putting Nylander can drive his own line. If my worry is Ken Tavares, that's my worry. Like I don't have a problem.
No to both.
Well, I think
the answer is no to both.
Nylander's driving that line. Doesn't matter whether you're playing center ice or on the wing. He's driving that line. Period. He's got the puck, and things happen when he has the puck. Every time.
Did you watch the first 2 games of the preseason when we had Nylander playing center? Nylander had 0 interest in coming back in defense. I am not, believe you me, John, I agree 1,000%. William Nylander has been the best player on the ice in every game he's played this year. No problem. But be very clear about who William Nylander is and what William Nylander wants to be. William Nylander is happy to be the winger who goes in, who puts the puck in the net, who does the dipsy-do, goes around and gets the flash and the pizzazz. William Nylander will never be the guy who's coming back in the corner, pinning the guy on the wall, giving the guy the extra bump to allow the puck to progress for somebody else to get the puck up the ice. That's not his game. As a defensive center, as a center in the NHL, the second line, you've got to be able to come back. You've got to skate hard. You've got to get into the play. That's not Willie's game. That's not where Willie excels. And most importantly, those 2 games in the first 2 preseason showed Willie has 0 interest in being that player. So, in my mind, a good coach, and again, here I am, 3 points. I'm giving the coach positive credit instead of putting a player in a position where he's not going to be as successful. You put back with a center like John Tavares, who's a defensive center, who's always going to be in the right spot on the back end of the play. Skating, never his strong suit, but positionally, he's going to be sound. You know that as your wingers, you're able to move the puck. You're able to take more chances because you know you've got Tavares. If you took a 40-goal winger off Tavares' wing, you want to see a regression in a player's numbers, it would be staggering. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I see your point on that, but if I watched, and I didn't watch those 2 preseason games, so I can't comment. But again, it was a preseason, and the way that Nylander played the last 3 games, he looked like a center iceman in the offensive zone. He looked like a center iceman. He didn't look like a winger.
But
he's wheeling. He's all over the place. He's doing real well, and they have the puck a lot, that line. My point is, if you had the right, so maybe you move Nyes and Domi with Tavares, and let Willie see what he can do with a couple, because he's going to drive a line. Doesn't matter who. I'm telling you, you're going to see all of a sudden Minton's going to get a couple goals, and Yarncroc, or keep him on the wing on that line. I don't know. I'm saying he can drive a line. If the problem with him playing center ice, okay, maybe you keep Yarncroc in the middle. At the end of the day, that guy can drive his own line, right? Can Tavares?
But that's the point.
If you put a Domi,
we ultimately go with.
Domi skates well, nice. That's where I would use this next 6-7 games and start to throw things a little bit in the blender, because you'll be very surprised with what comes out, right? And if you're not afraid to make some decisions, obviously, with Nylander playing as well as he is, you don't want to rock the boat either, right? You don't want to, but at the end of the day, he's never going to, you don't need him with the Matthews line ever again, right? He's, and they got to lock him up. They got to figure out that contract right away.
So,
because Nolan, you said it before we came on the air, his price is raising every day with his play.
Yeah, especially with his 2 goals against Mini.
So we all agree, though? Do we all agree? We think next year William Nylander is a Maple Leaf.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd be absolutely crazy to not. But, if you look at Treliving's history, he seems to sometimes lose guys for nothing.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nolan? Do you see him with us next year, or?
Yeah, I know. I see him staying with the Leafs. I think he grew up with the core. He grew up in Toronto, being drafted here at 18. Played with the Marlies, played with the Leafs, obviously. He said a bunch of times that he wants to stay here. They just got to figure out a number that works for the 2 of them. But I can see like 8-year deal.
Tavares said he wanted to stay in the island.
Yeah, but there's no NHL team in Sweden. I don't know.
Point. So here's my thing on Willie. And I do ultimately think he will sign here. We're the only team that can give him an 8th year, right?
Yep.
And in order for him to make the same amount of money, say he signs 7 years at 11 million, 77, and he gets that money with a handful of teams who aren't going to be competitive, right? Most teams we're in the wheelhouse on the cap if you're legitimately going to be a player. For the Leafs to get to 70 million at 8 years, that's 9. Right?
Yeah, the guys don't think like that, John. The guys are looking all at AAV. They don't care. They're not looking at what I make in over 9 years. They're looking at what's my AAV, because that's who's got the biggest, right?
But,
What's your AAV?
ultimately, do you think William Nylander is in that top 5, top 7 in the league category for money? And if the answer is not no, or if the answer is no, that you don't think he's the elite top money, top 5, top 7 players in the league, the AAV that you're going to get, do you want the AAV with a 7-year deal, competitive player, or do you want the same money with a lower AAV team that's going to be for the cup? I think that's where the question comes, and that's a William Nylander question that no one knows the answer to.
Well, I think I'm going to try to lock him up for as long as 34 is locked up. That's my starting point. Is I'm going to try to get him at a number that makes sense for 4 years, and I think I really believe that Connor McDavid.
That's an interesting take, John.
Yeah,
that's an interesting take. I never thought about that
because 34 leaves, and he leaves too. Maybe it's a little bit of a retool or rebuild or whatever, but I have a strong feeling that Connor McDavid is. I've heard from him. He likes Edmonton, obviously, but he's always wanted to play for Toronto. I think he comes in here, and he's only got a year or two left. He hasn't got a lot left. I think he's here, or certainly maybe signs for kind of like Matthews signs for 2 or 3 more years in Edmonton, and then he's here, and then that's kind of right in that wheelhouse. Toronto has brought in a lot of guys over the years at the end of their career, but never really the great ones, right? Like McDavid would be, they could have had Gretzky and Stavro Kaibosh did, and he could have came here, and whether he pushed them over or got them closer or whatever, didn't matter. But to be able to have Wayne Gretzky play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it would be like Crosby.
It would have been Gretz.
Any of them. So I think he's going to be in play. I really do. I don't think I mean, I like Nylander as a player. There's times when I think he's a little bit aloof. If you hear the other guys talk about him, they just laugh. They go, "Oh, what do you think of William Nylander?" They're like, "Oh, he's something else. He's so he's a space cadet. He's out here, but he can play, right? And he can certainly play for another 4 years." So yeah, if I've got to pay that guy $10 million for 4 years, I'm doing it.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
It's interesting, John. I never thought about going short term with Willie.
Yeah, cap's coming up $4 or $5 million next year. You're going to get Brody off the books. You got some kids coming up. Some entry level stuff. Easton Callum makes his team next year at $1 million hit. I think. I think you can that's doable. I think you have to. I mean, I would look at Tavares has been great, but I'd probably over the next year and a half to 2 years be looking at a buyout of him at the end of his, or give him an opportunity to go somewhere else to finish his career, or look at the possibility of getting at least half that cap hit off the books. Or you tell him, hey, where do you want to go?
I think so. Marner and Tavares each have a year left after they each have a year left of this year. So through next year.
So Tavares, you let him ride it out.
Marner,
let's see.
So we got 2 years. We got this year and next year of Tavares at $11 million.
Yeah.
Now, listen, John Tavares is a very, very good NHL hockey player still.
Yeah.
If you told me that John Tavares wanted a 3-year extension at the end of next season at $15 million, $5 a season, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't. No.
Oh, really?
He's making that money. If I'm the general manager and he wants to be here, I'll say, hey, you know what? We'd love to have you. Here's where we are, right? You just made $77 million or $88 million or whatever you made on that deal. Come in at the league minimum. You can remain the captain for the next 3 years, but that's all I can afford to pay you at this point. And let him make that decision. Why would you pay that guy 5? I would be like,
you
hey,
paid Bertuzzi 5.5.
I think Tavares will still be worth $5 million. That's $6 million cheaper than he's making now.
What did what did
3 years
Tarasenko
from
get?
now.
What did Tarasenko get?
1 year, $5 million.
Yeah.
Well, O'Reilly just signed 3 years, 4.5, and he's a couple years older than Tavares.
Yeah, I think you can get a more useful player for $5 million than John Tavares. Not next year, the year after, 100%. Right, and I think he's pajama boy, man. He'll take a home down discount.
Johnny, who ever thought I would be the guy advocating for a John Tavares contract extension?
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Well, what about some of that money going to McDavid?
Hey, listen,
and their buddies. So you say, hey, JT, here, you take league min, and then we're going to pay McDavid, and he's coming here. And we still got Matthews for 2 years, and Marner just re-upped, and we got Willie locked in. So now you've got McDavid, you got all these guys for,
How about this, John? How about I let Marner walk and I take McDavid? And then we use Tavares' money to get a legit number 1 defenseman.
Could be, yeah. There's a million things that can happen.
Totally,
but
John, all of a sudden, I'm excited. I'm ready to go now. Let's get McDavid here. Let's just get it done. Let's make some.
Well, you know what? Let's focus on watching the next 3. Okay.
Okay. So the next 2 games. So the next 2 games we got Florida coming up tomorrow night, and then we got Tampa on Saturday before we're on next. So. Going in, listen, we always have trouble in Florida. We always do. Florida always plays us tough regardless if they're in last place and we're in first or the opposite. What do we think about the upcoming week here? Where do you guys expect us to be at the end of the week?
I'm looking at it like I always look at it. If you can go into Florida, right? Tough places to play.
Let's see.
Good team. You can come home with 2 points out of that road trip and healthy. You did a good job. Anything else is a bonus. Anything less is not good enough.
Yeah, I think now is the time of year to really take advantage of playing Florida and Tampa when they're both banged up. Vasi's out for Tampa. Stamkos out. And then Florida, they're out without Ekblad, Montour.
Is Stamkos out?
Bennett, yeah. I'm not sure if he's going to be out by Saturday, but he's
day-to-day.
Last game. Yeah. But, yeah, Florida doesn't have Ekblad or Montour. I think Sam Bennett might be injured too. But
here's the thing. You know what I care more about on this trip? Let the guys get on the golf course. Okay. Like I would tell them, if I'm coaching that team, I'm telling them, put your clubs on the plane, but here's what we're doing. If you don't win in Florida, we're practicing on Thursday. You win in Florida, we're not. We'll give you the day off. We'll practice Friday, pregame skate Saturday. Give them that carrot now. And that gets the team gelling. That gets the guys, then they're in each other's ears. The guys are going, hey, you know what, boys? I don't want to skate tomorrow morning, right? I don't want, this is not what we want to do. They want to go out. They're in Miami, hey, go out for a couple pops after the game. Get up in the morning, go play a PGA golf course. Enjoy yourself, start to get together, have a team dinner, that kind of stuff. But you don't want the coach in your ear because you played like shit the night before when you have a clearly better team, right? So this is a good opportunity for the leadership of the team. Forget about the coach, right? The leadership of the team. And, we all know who they are. And Reeves is included in that group now, absolutely, to go out and say, hey, you know what, boys, this is what we're going to do. And go out. So I expect a real dominant performance tomorrow night. I think they're gonna clean up some of the shit that they had to deal with in the first 3, mainly puck management. Like I said, the goaltending I'm not worried about. Even the defense I'm not worried about because this is a team that can have the puck. If they figure out how to hold the puck and not give it away at inopportune times, they're gonna win 8 games out of 10. In this league. This team is that good, right? So here's your opportunity, and if Keefe's good, he'll give them that carrot. So that's how I'm running this road trip, and stick to it. You know what? If they have a good game and they, you know, maybe lose in overtime or something like that, but they played the game the right way, that's when you go in and say, hey, you know what? I know I said you had to win, but, you know, I'm proud of the effort. We fixed it. We cleaned up a couple of the deficiencies from the homestand. Day off. And
okay, so let me
that
ask
room
you,
will be like they want to
before
cut.
we close.
Guys love that.
So before we close, okay,
Yep.
Nolan, if you could give me one thing that you want to see over the next 2 games that would make you feel great, if you could pick one thing that you could see, what would it be?
I'm just gonna say this. I know Sam Bennett. Last time I looked, he's out. But if he plays tomorrow, I would love to see Domi, Bertuzzi, or Reeves just fill him in for concussing knives in the playoffs. Set the tone early.
I like it.
I would love that. I'd make my whole week.
I'm on the same path but my guy is Kachuk. I'd like to see somebody really set the tone. Kachuk is the Kachuk brothers are just maniacs. We've talked about them over the last couple
Johnny,
of years.
we love them, but we love them though.
Love them. But you know what? I think this Toronto Maple Leaf team, and maybe it's Revo, maybe it's Domi, I don't know who it is. But I think every time Matthew Tkachuk touches the puck or is in front of the net, I think he's got to pay. I think somebody probably has to fight him and let him know that, hey, you know what? This is a new Toronto Maple Leafs hockey club. You're not going to come in and score 2 and an apple and run all over us ever again. You're going to be held accountable. So, but I agree with Nolan too. I like that too.
Okay, so
Sam Bennett.
I love both. I love both. Both of those things would make me happy. But I'm gonna drill it down a level and get a little more granular with it. All I want to see is a team that shows up from the puck drop and competes hard for 60 minutes. I can live with a loss. I can live with 2 losses on this road trip. But I want to see that everybody is committed right from the puck drop, plays hard, finishes checks, basic hockey. That's all I want on this road trip. That is a successful trip for me, is showing that we understand that 60 minutes of hockey is necessary. That's it. Oh, question from Greg Nickel here. It just disappeared on me. Does anybody else? Speaking of Sweden, are the Maple Leafs going on the road to Sweden in November? I know we're going on the road to Sweden. Hold on, I'll tell you when.
Hey, I think I played with this guy. This guy was a hack, Greg Nickel. He was a hack. Yeah, we'll go on the road to Sweden. See if one of our sponsors will look after it, Bjorn or Don Cherries, and fly the boys over, and we'll do a pregame.
There you go. I feel like we'd be great in Sweden. I love Matt Sundin.
Yeah, I've been to Sweden. Sweden's fun.
Hey, and you know what, Johnny? I said this last week, and I'll say it every single time I get a chance to bring up Sweden. Anytime we get a chance to bring up Borje Salming is a great thing.
Yeah.
Every time you get a chance to bring up Borje Salming is a great thing. And you know what? I was talking with somebody about this the other day, and not to, go too deep on it, but in retrospect, shout out to the Maple Leaf organization for doing the right thing last year, getting Borje when he had to have known it was near the end of the road. And you know what? Seeing him and Sittler and Mats and, listening to Nylander afterwards on what he meant to them. And I watched, there was a great thing on ESPN where Peter Forsberg was on. And Peter Forsberg was talking about, like we view him in Toronto in a certain way, and we hold him in such high esteem here. But over there, he's their Gretzky, he's their Crosby. He was idolized to such an extent that I think a lot of us don't even quite realize the impact that a Börje Salming had on Sweden and on Swedish hockey. With players today and where the league is at. And you know me, anytime I get a chance to bring up Börje, I'm in. I love Salming.
I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Every player that's not from North America that plays in the NHL owes that man's family some of their paycheck, because he paved the way for sure. At a real tough time to come in. The game was very, very different than it is now, and coming from a finesse league to Dave Schultz.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia and the Broad Street Bullies, and he persevered through it. So, God rest his soul. Have a good week. Enjoy the Florida road trip. We will see you all next Tuesday night. Take care.
Hey, and shout out before we go. The Leafs are in Sweden on Friday, November the 17th, and Sunday, November the 19th. So book your flights now. Johnny, Nolan, and I will see you in Sweden.
Get your passports updated, fellas.
Oh, yeah.
Take care.